You're listening to Innovators by bcjobs.ca, Western Canada's largest job board. This podcast is about innovative companies with a focus on people. What sets them apart in terms of their leaders, company culture, and future outlook? As a business leader, what can you do to encourage innovation? As a recruiter, what can you do to adopt an innovative corporate culture? And as a job candidate, what can you do to stand out?
Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Simon, and I'll be your host for today's episode with Raghwa Gopal from InnovateBC. Raghwa is currently the president and CEO of InnovateBC. Aside from that, he has a whole list of other positions that he is currently on, including the governor at the University of British Columbia, and also a member at the Emerging Economy Task Force with the government of BC. I don't think any introduction I can ever give to Raghwa will be enough. I'll pass the mic over and I'll let you introduce yourself. Maybe tell the people in the audience who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Simon. Happy to be here. As you mentioned, my name is Raghwa Gopal. I'm the president and CEO of InnovateBC. I have taken this job around early last year. So I've been at InnovateBC since February 2019. Prior to that, very briefly, arrived in Kelowna in 1979 as a software engineer, and with a co-founder, co-founded the very first software company in Kelowna, owned and built that company until 2001. And then helped a couple of other startups and exit. And then basically focused my time for about 15 years in building a tech ecosystem in the Okanagan region, helped build a local accelerator here in Kelowna. And then in 2015, due to some changes in the accelerator, I actually took the lead and became the president and CEO for Accelerate Okanagan, which is the local technology accelerator. I headed that organization until, like I say, February of last year, and then now I've moved in InnovateBC.
You're part of the board member for many different organizations. I'm just going to walk through some of them just so the audience can get a sense of how many different organizations you're with. So you mentioned you are the governor at the UBC?
Yes, so I'm one of the province appointed governors for UBC.
And what does that role kind of look like?
So, being a governor is like a director on the board. So we make sure that we provide the right kind of governance and strategic directions to the university, to the administration team.
And the UBC, from what I've seen, I actually went to UBC as well. It's one of the top schools in Canada and even around the world.
It sure is, and it's trending, to become one of the. I think it's already in the top 30, but trending to get even in the top 20. It's an amazing, large, complex organization.
Yeah, I believe as of 2014, when I left UBC, when I graduated, they were ranked 25th. So you're absolutely right, top 30 around the world and probably trending upwards. And in addition, you were part of a couple of task force at the government of British Columbia. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so a year and a half ago, the province instituted a emerging economy task force to kind of look at where the economy will be over the next 5, 10, 15, even 25 years down the road, and provide guidance and assistance to the provincial government so they can start to institute policies to make sure they're prepared for those economies that that will be in the forefront in the future, and just trying to make sure that the province was resilient in all the changes that were happening. So I was very honored to be appointed as one of the task force members there. And very recently, about a year ago, the province initiated a task force called the Food Security Task Force to look at what's happening in the food security areas in the province, what's happening in the agricultural sector, what kind of innovations are happening. And so I was very happy to be appointed to that task force as well to look at where British Columbia is today and what we need to do over the next, short term, next 5 years, but longer term as well, to make sure that we have food security, for the people of the province. So both task forces, we've just recently finished our work, and the report has recently been released on the emerging economy task force, like it was about 3-4 weeks ago. So it's available for public to look at. All of the deliberations and research and consultations that we did throughout the province, and all of the recommendations are in both of those reports.
So, President, CEO of InnovateBC, Governor UBC, member of the task force at the government of British Columbia, and if that's not enough, you're also a member at the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Governor of Hamber Foundation, board member at the ICIC, the India-Canada Innovation Council, and a long list of other companies. So fair to say that you are one of the leading voices when it comes to innovation, when it comes to community building, especially around startups and businesses. How do you find the time to do all of this?
Equity, diversity, inclusion, all of that is a huge passion of mine. So when the chief of British Columbia BCRCMP started a committee to look into those, to advance those initiatives, I was, again, very honored and happy to be part of that, to bring my voice, to the table, to make sure that we continually make advancements, in that particular space. Mentoring and helping people and building communities and building ecosystems is, again, a huge passion of mine. So when I'm involved in some of the other nonprofit organizations, as an example, Hamber Foundation, where we provide a lot of assistance to nonprofits and people in need, and I'm happy to do that. These are again not full-time jobs, but this, what I consider is my give back to the community. So definitely, I'm busy. I try and be very effective and try and help out as much as I can.
I feel like you have more than 24 hours a day.
I wish.
Is that some special power that we don't know about? We just took a look at your long list of current and previous projects that you've worked on. If you were to explain to, let's say, someone that you just met, or maybe even your parents, how would you describe what you do for a living and what you do for work?
Well, for specifically for InnovateBC, I try to be fairly specific to what the organization is and exactly what we do. So InnovateBC, we're a crown agency of the province of British Columbia that connect provinces, innovators. These are people that are innovating in different ways, different things, to funding, resources, and support they need to start, scale, and stay in British Columbia. So the big thing is making sure that anybody has an idea or any sort of innovation, we provide them all of those things so they're able to get that idea into commercial stage, build a company, and stay in British Columbia. And our work covers companies at all stages of growth. So right from idea stage to companies that are scaling. We support companies across all sectors, so we're not in one specific sector. And the big thing that I say to people is that we help companies all over British Columbia. One of the confusion, I guess, is because we're based in Vancouver, people think we're only kind of serving the companies or constituents around the Lower Mainland, but it's not true. Our focus is all of British Columbia, and we do a lot of work in all of the rural areas, regions of British Columbia.
What % of your projects are in Vancouver or the Lower Mainland, and then what % is outside, would you say?
Right now, 50%, approximately 50% is in Lower Mainland, and 50% is in the regions.
Cool. Working with a lot of different startups. This is a good segue. This is going to throw you a curveball here. The podcast is named Innovators. I'm just very curious from Based on your experience and all the different projects you've worked with, what does being a good innovator means to you?
It's, a good innovator is somebody that has that eye to be able to see an issue, see a problem, and then start thinking of how you can solve that. I mean, that's innovation. And sometimes, people look at innovation as building something. It's really not that. To me, innovation is, like I just mentioned, there is a problem, and you're already starting to think about how you can solve that problem. It's basically trying to respond to a change in a creative way. You take your idea and you apply it in a novel or in a useful way. I mean, that's to me, that's innovation, and it's also thinking as well. People that have a new or different way of thinking. People that think about and that had never say thought about equity and all of that in their business or in their personal lives. If they start to think in that term, that's actually innovation as well. So it's fairly broad, not just kind of building a product or a service.
Exactly, because so much of a company's success depends on so many different factors, not just the product, not just the tech, but also the corporate culture, also the strategy, also the team that you put into place and the resources that are available.
Absolutely. Culture is very, very important. Companies that really prosper and do well and grow fast, if you really dig deep into some of the reasons why they were successful, it's because they created that nice culture right from the early stages. It's hard to build good culture when you're halfway through, but it's much easier to build that culture right at the very beginning. And good, successful companies have done that. Have been very good at that.
Early in your career, you mentioned that you also started your own startup. How were you able to create a culture? Your company lasted for more than 20 years before getting acquired. How did you go about building that kind of culture where people will stay and grow with the company?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We and for us, for myself and my business partner, culture was not something was an afterthought. My partner was a very experienced businessman. I had no experience at that time, but he was a great mentor and coach. And one thing that I remember him saying when we were just the two of us, three of us, is that we need to create an amazing culture for us to be successful. If you want to be in business for 20, 30 years, then we need to make sure that we start with a great culture to begin with. One of the things that he said that still resonates to me is if you want to just grow the company and sell it in 5 years, you probably want to focus on your top line and bottom line and not worry about any of the side things. But if you want to build and run and grow this company for many, many years, then the culture side is very important, which is so true even today. So what we did in our organization is for every hire that we made, we wanted to make sure that they felt that they were part of a team, that they felt that they were a part of a family, very genuinely. Real small things that we did. Created that, by, me learning from my partner mainly is, going into the office every morning and meeting everybody and saying hi and, having a brief chat about how the evening was last night. Just created that level of trust and respect that people started to feel, like a family. That was just the beginning point. Then we made sure that we focused on different areas, but we did it together. As an example, when our company was growing, we were known in the entire country as a company that provided the best service. But that just didn't happen because somebody thought of it. It was a very deliberate effort within our organization, between my partner and myself, and with the team to say, we will go out of way to create this culture and make sure that our customers will be serviced way better than any other companies. Like they should rave about our service, and everybody bought onto that plan, and it started a culture of great customer service. That was just one thing. And then, as we started to grow, and our product needed to be enhanced, we needed to add more products. The second thing we started to focus again collectively, we sat down and said, "Hey guys, you know what? We need to make sure that our product is the best in the market. Let's all work together collectively to make sure that this becomes one of the greatest objectives of the company." Everybody's going to do the day-to-day job, but at the end of the day, on the customer service, we're doing it with our eyes closed. That's perfect. We want to continue that. We want to enhance that, but let's focus on the product quality side, and then started to build some great, amazing products.
What was the product that you sold, by the way?
We had a enterprise solution for local government, so 30 different applications that ran an entire municipality, from all of the accounting systems to billing systems, parking tickets, property taxes, utilities, and all building permits. So it was 30 different applications doing different things, but they were all integrated into one thing. So as an example, if you parked a car in Vancouver in the wrong place and you got a parking ticket, that parking ticket would actually automatically go into the financial systems. And if you didn't pay, then it will go to the collection system that will take you to the court and all summons and all sorts. So it was totally integrated solution that a municipality would buy from us.
And how large was the company at its peak?
We were over 100 people at our peak. That was in just after 2001.
And when you talk about that culture of talking to everyone, that really creates a flat company culture, right? One of the key components of an innovative company. How do you manage being able to create that level of engagement with all 100 of your employees?
Yeah, you are right. I mean, we very intently didn't want to create a huge hierarchy, because once you go down to, say, 3 or 4 levels, it becomes very difficult to talk with them. So for me, as the owner, if I had 5 levels and I wanted to talk to the guy that was coding and find out about what his issues were or what he was thinking of innovating, it would become very difficult, because it just won't allow that. So we tried to keep the organization as flat as possible. And one thing that I made it very clear, or both my partner and I made it very clear, that every employee has full and total access to both of us at any given time. So it gave every employee, no matter what level they were in, that they could come and talk to us, number one. And we had a lot of, I would say, little nuances that I don't see happening, these days. As an example, I had lunch. My partner and I had lunch with every employee. So every day I would take one employee, and we just and it was known in the company. So it wasn't like if I was taking Simon out for lunch, the other people will see what's happening. No, we made sure that we would give quality time to everyone in the organization. So either over coffee or a lunch or dinner, we made sure that outside of work, not kind of going and talking to them about a new project or new enhancements to make in the software or product or service. This was outside of that, just over coffee or lunch, just talking about themselves and providing them, that comfort level about, the space that they have to think, the freedom that they have to, make decisions, and all of that coaching that normally happens. So we just made a point of being very connected to our employees. And once we get to 70, 80 people, I know founders or our counterparts in different companies, when they hear that, what are you guys doing? Like, it doesn't make sense. But for us, it made total sense, because we always had that connectivity with the people, and then we always had people coming to us with great ideas.
So, like, you and your partner would have lunch with me today, and then maybe another developer on Tuesday or like a Wednesday, and just rotating every single day, and that went from Monday to Friday?
Monday to Friday. There were times when we know we had other commitments, other meetings. We didn't do it, but then we'd have a nice coffee with the next person for half an hour, 45 minutes at 3 o'clock. But we connected with individuals in that cycle all the time.
Yeah, right. And 100 employees over the year. Any given employee gets to eat with you 3 times a year. So that's quite nice.
Even if they met with us 2 times a year for 2 hours, over that quality time when we weren't kind of talking about work projects, I thought that was a real good time to connect, get to know them a lot. And but what I found, the benefit of that was they were so comfortable speaking up, coming up with the ideas, whether I was in the meeting or not. They would just, I just get the sense that they were very comfortable in bringing that idea. And one of the key messages that we would talk to our employees outside, this is the lunch, coffee, dinner meetings, was that you can always come up with an idea or suggestion, because no idea is a bad idea. We made it very clear, not everything that you're going to bring up will be taken and implemented, but no idea that you have is a bad idea. It might not be the right time to implement it. It might not, may not have the right kind of resources, funding to be able to do. Sometimes they would, come up and say, you need to go into this specific, say, geography, a different market or something. And we may just didn't align with the company's strategic plan at that time. So we tell them that, but it wasn't a bad idea. So what we always encourage them is to come up and always keep thinking and bring up ideas, because no idea was a bad idea.
This is a perfect segue. You're talking about different ideas. Ideas are great. People always talk about execution, though. Executions is what creates the most successful companies. And we did some research at the Harvard Business Review, and we found that the most innovative companies usually have 5 things in common, right? They have tolerance for failure, and you're talking about good idea versus bad ideas, willingness to experiment, freedom of speech, which your previous company did really well, highly collaborative, and also non-hierarchical. Despite the fact that we all know this, these are the best types of cultures and the most innovative cultures, but they are hard to create and even more difficult to sustain. How do you go about doing that? Let's say an employee comes up with a very great idea, executes, but does it bad, does it poorly. How do you go about, this kind of tolerance for failure? How do you go about this willingness to experiment? And how do you develop this kind of innovative culture?
Yeah, I think first you need to create that environment. And you're right, it's not easy because it takes an effort. It's just like, creating a new market. It takes effort, it takes resources, it takes money. Creating that environment where, people feel comfortable to bring up ideas and also accept that if that idea fails, that's still okay. So we were very deliberate in making sure that we created that environment, and I talked about a few things. Second thing, we always gave people the space and the time to be creative. In our organization, there was the different sort of departments doing different things. The graphics team, trying to make sure everything kind of looks good. The software development team making sure that the products had all the features, and then the implementation team making sure that the customers really understood how to use all the features of the product. But we always made sure that these teams had time, downtime, and it was up to the team to decide how they do it. Like, is it Friday afternoon at noon? We're just going to knock off. We're going to have some lunch, and then we're just going to take an idea and just beat it to death, see if it makes sense. It doesn't affect the work we're doing. Don't go and muck up the current environment of programs or product, but go play with it. Just kind of try it out. And then what we found, like once you give them that space, that free will to try things, they would fail a lot, which is totally fine. And I encourage a lot of failure. One thing that I always say, it's always to try something and fail at it, then not try it and not know what would have happened. So always try it out. If it doesn't work, no problem, go on to the next thing. And I just saw like they were so much fun, and our teams did and these are small innovations that nobody would care about. But the message here is like in our products, in our service delivery, we were so ahead of time. And it wasn't because anything that my business partner and I did. I would tell you probably 95% of those things I had no idea about. This was all generated within from the employees. But we provide what I did was created that environment. I gave them the space and time. I gave them the confidence that trying it and failing is better than not trying it at all. And I provided a little bit of resources. Sometimes they needed something, and I said, to do some trial here, go ahead and do that. And then the intangibles are creating that the comfort zone where people feel open and feel comfortable to bring up ideas and thought processes that may not be totally streamlined. So we always dealt with everybody with a lot of dignity and respect, no matter what the idea was. And sometimes people come up with things that might sound like so off the chart, and you don't laugh at it. It's like, okay, I get it. Oh, I don't get it, but it looks like something that you think is great. We need to park it, that kind of stuff. So you always have to provide that kind of environment for innovation to prosper. And I've seen great organizations. It all begins with people. And the reason they continue to grow and prosper is there's a lot of internal innovation happening on a daily basis. And it's not changing 100% of what they're doing, from this way to the other way, but it's little things that enhancing the business on a daily basis.
Well, you know what? As I'm listening to all this, it sounds like really it all starts with the leader, right? The leader creates this culture. The leader has this vision for the culture, and it's up to the leader to bring it down to the different levels and to the different employees, and really to teach and to preach this kind of tolerance for failure. So I'm very curious, how did you develop this? How did you develop this willingness to experiment? And, even if an employee does one bad project, you're still willing to give them a second, third chance. How did you develop this tolerance for failure? Was it from your parents, or just from something you learned earlier in your career, or from a mentor?
For me, two things. One is just my mentor. I just lucked out to have this amazing business partner who was my mentor, who just had been around a lot of businesses, a lot of large businesses. He had actually worked for large mining companies and stuff like that. So he had a humongous amount of experience, which I was able to leverage, and he guided me with a lot of these things about. He talked about creating that environment, and that time, whether it's environment or culture, but he talked about the environment which built that kind of culture within our organizations. But for me personally, as I was growing up, I grew up in a farm with nothing. And when you're in that situation, you're always trying things. You're not succeeding a lot of times. I can tell you that much. You're probably not succeeding more than 10% of the time, but you're always trying things. And then once you're kind of in that mode, right, you always, that doesn't go away. So for me, those were the two things that kind of kept me, making sure that, in my business, that similar kind of mentality was there. And one thing about creating culture, you talked about, start with a leader. I was in a HR conference, and somebody talked about how HR is supposed to create culture. I was going to jump up and go to the stage and say, you guys are going totally in the wrong direction. HR does not create culture in our organization. HR administers it. HR promotes it. The culture needs to start with the leaders. And if you don't want to do that, it's very difficult. It's not going to work.
I want to take it back. You were talking about the people. It sounds like there's a huge focus on people and also culture in your previous startup, and even probably all the other startups that you've mentored and advised in the past. People and culture are sometimes said to be the most important part of the company, more important than the technology or even the industry itself. often you put the right team together and anything really is possible. So I'm curious for you, after all these years of experience, how do you recruit and how do you advise your companies to recruit to ensure that people continue to steer the ship towards the right direction?
Yeah, we had a very unorthodox hiring model, and I don't know whether that's right or wrong, but that's the model that we had, and it worked for us. You're right. I mean, for us, it was right from day one that we understood that it's our people that will either make us successful or not, and always making sure that we're hiring people that were smarter than us, that fit the type of jobs that we wanted them to do. We're totally okay with that. As far as the hiring policy, we had like I said, a little bit of an unorthodox method of hiring. We would the normal process of analyzing and making sure that we really needed that particular resource, documenting what that particular position needed to do, finding out what kind of you're not always kind of right on that, but at least trying to put together what kind of experience and education or skill set that particular position needs. And then you go through the budgeting process to make sure that it's part of the budget and ongoing budget. And then you go advertise, through the normal means. And then you look at all the applicants. You shortlist to a certain amount, which mostly I did, to the top 5, and then get my partner involved to narrow it down to probably top 3 phone interviews and all that kind of. This is all kind of regular. But once we got to the individual that we really wanted to hire, then we changed the process a little bit, because we wanted to make sure that our team, especially at that level, the most senior 2 or 3 employees, to have one-on-one with this new hire. And we'd bring them in. These senior people would have at least half an hour or 15 minutes of one-on-ones. And then I would bring probably a cross-section of people. So maybe the receptionist, somebody from customer support, somebody from the technical side, 5 or 6 people in the room that would it's not an interview process anymore, but just kind of have a chit-chat. So this potential employee would talk about who they are, personal stuff, what they like, what they don't like, why they applied for this company, what they saw in our organization that made them apply. So just have the discussion, and then after all of that was said and done, then we would solicit this input from these employees, and it actually would make the decision based on what we heard. The reason we wanted to do that is we wanted to make sure there was a culture fit. And the only way to figure out if there's a culture fit is to make sure that you get more than 1, 2, 3, or 4 people involved and talk to them to be able to figure that out. If the team came back and said, this is a great employee, he has all the right kind of skill set, but it won't work, it won't be a culture fit because this is what we've heard, we would not go ahead with hire, no matter how much I like that particular individual. Then we go to the second one. But if they all gave them the thumbs up, then we would continue to hire that particular individual. And what I found, when you do that, those 8 people or 9 people that had talked to them through that process, almost own it, almost make it the priority to make this particular individual successful. So it was a great win-win. We bring this new guy or girl that becomes fairly successful because everybody wants to, and it's the right culture fit, and it just doesn't it doesn't upset the culture within the organization. So that was the process we used for 28 years, and I never deviated from the process.
And so even now, as you are advising different startups, different companies, even companies that were your board members, do you preach these types of ideas, focusing on people and culture? And are there any examples of companies that have done it really well recently that you've seen?
A lot of companies, actually, too many to probably name or single out, but absolutely. So, when I'm involved with all of this, as an example, MSM is a company, international company that is hiring a lot of people. They're hiring 10 people every month, has been for the last 6 or 7 months. Same thing. Make sure that you have a great culture, and make sure that you know what that culture is. Make sure that everybody understands that, and make sure everybody buys into it. If they don't buy into it, then it doesn't work. So that's the first thing. As the same kind of thing as you hiring, this, just try this kind of process to make sure that it doesn't upset your culture that you built. So you kind of enhance as you bring new people in. And I always talk about the innovation part. A lot of new young companies, when I was talking to them 5-6 years ago, to say, provide that space and time for people to be innovative. But a 5-person company that's struggling to get a product out, they don't have long runways from from capital point of view. Weren't buying into that. Oh no, we're too busy. We're working 12 hours a day, so we can't do that. But the more and more they started to listen to that, and some of them started to adopt that. Now I see a shift where they're saying that is absolutely the right way to spend the time. Working more sometimes is not giving the most kind of benefit to the organization. Sometimes working smarter is probably more better than working more.
Yeah, sometimes less is truly more. Well, we want to open up the floor to you actually to say anything you like about InnovateBC. I know you work with a lot of different startups. Maybe a cool campaign or initiative that your company has been working on.
Yes, for sure. Just briefly, an organization does a lot throughout the province. I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but roughly, I would say close to 1,500 companies that we've supported, through some sort of funding or mentorship or job placements. I think over the last year and a half, the companies that we've helped, the 1,400 companies, I think had about just over 3,000 job placements. That's pretty huge. I think close to $180 some million in revenue were generated by those companies, and about over $350 million of investment those companies attracted. So it's like, from the impact point of view, a huge amount of impact for a small organization like us that's done. We, as far as some of the programs that we provide, we have what we call BC Acceleration Network Partners that are set up all around the province. So there's agencies in Nanaimo, Victoria, Prince George, Kamloops, Kootenays, and Trail, Kelowna, and then some in the Lower Mainland. Through them, we provide a lot of mentorship to startups and companies that are starting to scale up as well. So we're kind of trying to build different programs, so continue to help them. We have many other programs like our Ignite program, where we bring post-secondary researchers and students, partnered with a industry partner to take a research project, and put that into commercialization stage. So we fund a lot of those kind of the programs as well. And because of COVID, since March, we've really focused a lot more emphasis on making sure that students get placed in companies for helping companies continue to operate and digitize and stuff like that. So we are putting a lot more money, making sure that subsidized companies hiring students so they can have the resources that they need. Brand new program to help students is we're kind of finalizing the details right now. So I really can't talk too much about it, but I know I think a couple of members of my team, Jamil and Radu, are coming to this podcast in the next week or so. You know what? They should be able to, by that time, we'll have all the details lined out, and you should ask them about that particular program. Very exciting program to take a lot of our youth and place them into companies in British Columbia.
Very exciting. Well, I will leave it there for now. For everyone that is tuned in, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, take care, be safe, and consider checking out InnovateBC's accelerator and mentorship programs. You can find them at www.innovatebc.ca. Thanks so much for joining us today, Raghwa, and I look forward to chatting with you more.
Great. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. This is Simon, Vice President of BCJobs.ca. BC Jobs is used by hundreds of recruiters and over 200,000 candidates per month. We also run career fairs to help support the jobs market. We regularly run career fairs both in person and virtually, with up to 400 candidates per career fair. Visit bcjobs.ca to discover jobs locally and remote.